Welcome to Keep Learning 80. In this video, we're going to understand one of the most common application deployment issues in enterprise environments, MSI Error 16.3. Whether you're using Microsoft Configuration Manager SCCM Intune or installing applications manually, this error can be frustrating because it doesn't immediately reveal the actual problem. In this video, I'll explain what Error 16.3 means, how Windows Installer works, and the professional troubleshooting approach that experienced administrators use. Imagine you're deploying an application to hundreds of devices through MECM. Everything appears normal until Software Center reports Error 16.3 fatal error during installation. What does this error actually mean? Is the installer corrupt? Is there a permissions issue? Or is something else preventing the installation? Let's find out. Before we discuss Error 16.3, let's first understand what MSI is. MSI stands for Microsoft Installer Package. It's the standard package format used by Windows installer to install, modify, repair, and uninstall software. When you deploy applications through MECM or Intune, many of those deployments ultimately rely on Windows installer to complete the installation. Error 16.3 is a generic Windows installer exit code. It simply tells us that the installation encountered a fatal error and could not complete successfully. It does not identify the actual cause. Think of it as a symptom rather than a diagnosis. To identify the real problem, we need to investigate installer logs and system conditions. Every MSI installation follows a sequence of operations. Windows installer validates the package, checks prerequisites, copies files, updates the Windows registry, installs services if required, executes custom actions, and finally returns an exit code. If any of these operations fail, the installation stops and reports an error. Understanding this workflow helps us narrow down where the failure occurred. Error 16.3 can have many different causes. The application may already be installed, required prerequisites such as .NET or Visual C++ redistributables may be missing, another process may be locking files, folder permissions may prevent installation, antivirus software may block the installer, or a custom action inside the MSI may fail. Although these issues produce the same exit code, the resolution is different for each scenario. That's why experienced administrators investigate the underlying cause instead of assuming a single fix. One of the biggest mistakes new administrators make is trying random fixes as soon as they see Error 16.3. They restart the computer, disable antivirus, or reinstall the application without understanding what actually failed. Remember, Error 16.3 is not the problem itself. It is only a return code that tells us the installation could not complete. Professional troubleshooting always begins by identifying the real cause before making any changes. Every experienced MECM or Intune administrator follows a structured troubleshooting workflows. First, identify the deployment method. Next, review the deployment logs. Then analyze the MSI installer log. Identify the failing action, determine the underlying cause, apply the appropriate fix, and finally validate the installation. This process saves time and prevents unnecessary changes. Different deployment methods generate different logs. For MECM, administrators typically begin with appenforce.log to verify the installation command and exit code. AppDiscovery.log helps confirm whether the detection method worked correctly. For MSI-based applications, the installer log provides detailed information about every installation action. Knowing which log to check first can significantly reduce troubleshooting time. Seeing exit code 116.3 confirms that Windows installer reported a fatal installation error. However, the exit code alone cannot tell us whether the failure was caused by a permission issue, a missing prerequisite, or another problem. Always treat the exit code as a starting point for investigation, not the final answer. In enterprise environments, the majority of Error 16.3 cases fall into a few common categories. The application may already exist on the device. Required runtimes may be missing. Another process may be locking files. Antivirus software may interfere with installation, or permissions may prevent Windows installer from completing its tasks. Understanding these categories helps narrow the investigation much faster. Successful administrators don't rely on guesswork. They collect evidence, analyze the installation process, identify exactly where the failure occurred, and then apply the correct solution. This structured approach not only resolves the current issue but also builds confidence when troubleshooting future deployment problems. One of the most common reasons for error 16.3 is that the application or a conflicting version of it is already installed on the device. Windows installer detects the existing installation and stops the deployment. Before troubleshooting further, always verify whether the application is already present in installed apps or programs and features. Many enterprise applications depend on prerequisites such as the .NET framework, Visual C++ redistributables, or WebView 2 runtime. If these components are missing, the installer may stop and return error 1633. Before deploying an application, review the vendor documentation to identify all required dependencies. Windows installer needs permission to create folders, copy files, modify the registry, and install services. If the installation account does not have sufficient permissions, the installation can fail with error 1633. Always verify NTFS permissions, registry permissions, and the execution context used by your deployment tool. Another common reason is that a required file is currently being used by another application or process. Windows installer cannot replace or update a locked file, causing the installation to fail. Closing the application or restarting the computer often resolves this type of issue. Security software can occasionally prevent installers from creating files, modifying the registry, or launching installation processes. This behavior is especially common when endpoint protection policies block unknown installers. Review security logs and ensure the installer is trusted before making changes. Some MSI packages contain custom actions that execute scripts or additional installation tasks. If one of these actions fails, Windows installer may stop the installation and return error 1633. In these situations, reviewing the installer log and the software vendor's documentation is essential. Now that we understand the common causes of error 1633, let's look at the troubleshooting checklist that enterprise administrators follow. Instead of trying random fixes, use a structured approach. This helps you identify the root cause faster and reduces unnecessary troubleshooting time. Think of error 16.3 as the beginning of an investigation rather than the end. Ask a series of questions. Is the application already installed? Are all prerequisites available? Are permissions correct? Is antivirus blocking the installation? Each answer helps eliminate possibilities until you find the actual cause. Preventing installation failures is just as important as resolving them. Always test new applications in a lab environment before deploying them broadly. Review vendor documentation for prerequisites, use standard deployment processes, validate detection methods, and keep your deployment packages up to date. A proactive approach reduces support incidents and improves deployment success. Let's summarize what we've learned. Error 16.3 is a generic Windows installer exit code, not the actual cause of the failure. The key to successful troubleshooting is identifying the underlying issue through a structured investigation. By following a consistent methodology, you can resolve problems faster and improve application deployment reliability. Before we finish, let's summarize the complete troubleshooting framework. Whenever you encounter MSI Error 16.3, don't focus only on the error code. Follow a structured process, verify the application, check prerequisites, confirm permissions, review security software, investigate installer behavior, identify the actual cause, apply the correct fix, and finally validate the installation. This method works not only for error 16.3 but also for many other Windows installer issues. Throughout this masterclass, we've learned that error 16.3 is a generic Windows installer exit code rather than a direct explanation of the failure. We've explored how Windows installer works, the most common causes of installation failures, and a repeatable troubleshooting process. The goal is to replace guesswork with evidence-based investigation. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing to keep learning it for more Microsoft Intune, MECM, SCCM, and Windows troubleshooting content. Let me know in the comments which error 16.3 scenario you've encountered most often. Your feedback helps shape future videos. In the next episode, we'll explore another common Windows installer error and the techniques used to resolve it.